Hello, hello. Welcome, Lady Titans. Welcome to our first Spotlight series of 2026. It still feels a little bit weird. I'm writing dates and, still putting like dash 25. I'm like, no, it's dash 26. But that's always the January problem. But so excited to be having all of you guys today. We have a fantastic, a little bit different of a session that I'm so excited for you guys to hear. But before we get started, just want to give a few little announcements. So we sent out a member survey because Lady Titans is all designed for our members, for you ladies, women in our community. And so we want to hear from you. We want to hear what type of content you want from the Spotlight series, from our lounge. What other type of events do you want? And so thank you guys to those who filled out our survey. We had about 55 of you guys. And as promised, we are going to do some little giveaways because we said we will give away two $100 gift cards to everyone who fills out our survey. So, because we value and appreciate your opinions. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to kick it off because what is more fun than giving money away? Okay. Like, I think that's the funnest thing. So I've got a little spinning wheel here, if you will. And so you guys can see it live. You can see that there's no funny business happening here. But this is everyone who submitted our survey. So thank you guys. And so watch with me. Let's see who the grand winner is. And we'll be giving away two of these. Okay. So first one is dun, 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 Kimberly Tipton. So Kimberly, if you're on, if not, we will be emailing you to send it, but congratulations. So excited. Thank you for your feedback. And let's give away one more. So $100 to Kimberly, and let's see who else is going to be getting a $100 gift card. Bum, ba, dum. Ooh, Christina. Christina is on here a lot, Christina Salata. So we're so excited. So thank you guys for your feedback. So if you didn't win a gift card, I'm sorry, but we do appreciate your feedback. We're so glad that all of you are here. So thank you for participating in that. So we'll be reaching out to Kimberly and Christina with their gift cards. And then another super fun announcement. So we are always looking on how can we providing value to you guys. And so one thing that we have coming up very soon is a workshop from Zyra Talk. So they have been one of our fantastic sponsors. You can see them right here. Thank you, Zyra Talk. But they are going to be talking about how to use AI to turn your call center into a revenue machine. So that is coming up next week on the 27th at 1 p.m. We'll put the link there down in the chat, but it's completely free to come. Okay, just want it to be a resource to you guys as being a Lady Titans member. And so make sure that you are signing up. Like I said, we will drop the link there in the chat, but tons of value. So even if you yourself aren't working in the call center, there's tons of things from a managerial side, also understanding how we can grow the business and think about other ways to be maximizing all of our resources. This is a great way. ZyroTalk has been a fantastic partner to us, but then even beyond that, I've heard from so many contractors that even without a sponsorship, how much ZyroTalk has been helping them. And so this is a completely free workshop webinar that you guys will not want to miss. So make sure that you sign up for that happening next week. Okay. And then without further ado, though, I'm so excited for our Spotlight series today because it's going to be a little bit different. Like I said, we're going to have kind of like a fireside chat, if you will. So Angie Snow is one of our board members. She is a principal industry advisor at ServiceTitan, but she also serves as our member advisor on our Lady Titans board. And so she's going to be doing a fireside chat with Krista McBeth. She came highly recommended from Angie, just a wealth and a total knowledge bank and from all of her experience and her journey. And so they're just going to be talking and sharing and seeing how you might can find some own similarities in your own journey, and maybe asking some questions of how you could get from here to there and what challenges did you have to overcome. And so we're so excited to have Krista and Angie, but Krista is a transformative people executive with over 2 decades of experience leading teams that build product, architect, and scale global human capital strategies. As VP of People Operations at ServiceTitan, she builds and scales critical people products and infrastructure, enabling global growth and achieving time and cost savings through strategic optimization. Previously, Krista led talent operations for Shopify, expanding global employee foundations from 1,000 to over 13,000 over 30 plus countries. Her expertise includes leading multi-billion dollar M&A integrations and optimizing global rewards and global resources sector. So we have some rock stars here. We're so excited to hear about their journeys and asking some of these questions and see how it can relate and how we can find inspiration and action steps from it. So I'm going to turn it away to Angie and Krista. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you, Emily. Appreciate the introduction. And yes, I have been just as excited as Emily about this because Krista is one of our VPs at ServiceTitan over our people operations. And I had the opportunity to listen to her speak at a panel. I've known her for a while now, but I got to listen to her speak on a panel a few months ago at one of our Elevate summits that we do at ServiceTitan. And the things that she was sharing about the challenges of being a woman in any industry, I was like, oh my gosh, I can relate to this. And I feel like all of our Lady Titans could relate to this. And so when we were strategizing about upcoming Spotlight series, I said, we've got to get Krista on because just her experience and her background, I think would be so awesome for all of us to hear. So yes, Krista, thank you so much for joining us. We're super delighted to have you as a guest today.
Thanks, everyone. That's a fancy intro. I can tell you under the hood doesn't look so fancy. That's the stuff we get to write about as we accumulate experience. But very glad to be here. I hope I can help at least some of you with some of the challenges you may be experiencing or you may face.
Yeah, awesome. And so I've got a few questions and things that I want to ask Krista to kind of lead the conversation and just help uncover some great, just experience that you've got, Krista, but also some advice and lessons that you've learned along the way because you've had this amazing career path and you're still growing and still learning and just like all of us. And so anything that we can learn from you will be fantastic. But we'd love for everyone else, if you do have questions along the way, please put them in the chat. I'll make sure Emily's keeping an eye on that for us so that we can answer your questions as well. We want to make sure you have some time to ask some questions to Krista also. So, all right. Well, Krista, let's start off. We were just talking before the call started. You are you're in Ontario right now. Is this where you grew up? Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what brought you to Ontario.
Yeah, Angie and I were just joking about our snoring dogs. Well, I have a boxer having a dream right now. So if you hear weird ET-like noises, it's him. I grew up in a small town in the suburbs of Toronto, which is Ontario, central Canada. I was first generation Canadian with two working parents. My educational background, I chose to go into finance because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I went to Canadian equivalent university college. I better learn how to manage money and make money, and hopefully my career takes off from there. So by education, applied economics, finance, how the heck does that land you in HR? My earlier career was much different from where I am now, too. I started off in consulting. Every industry and role I found myself in was male dominated. So financial services, insurance, mining, oil and gas, and consulting. Before pivoting to tech, which was a whole new world.
Awesome. So I know you had a lot of different roles that kind of led you to where you are today. So tell us about some of those different roles and kind of your career progression and how you did end up in tech.
Yeah, look, I made a bunch of intentional decisions with the information I had at the time. So a few things I'll pull out. Earlier career, I did human capital consulting. You may all be familiar with Mercer, big company, advising big companies. I took a risk and joined a startup that went under doing the same thing. And I knew that that was the risk. And all the experienced people around me told me I was crazy because it would go under, and it did, because that is a high risk when you go into startups. I made my way into financial services during the downturn 2007, 2008, and into resources, mining, oil and gas during the oil downturn and the gold downturns. And, I kind of saw a lot earlier career in life. Sometimes you wonder, why is this happening? How is this all going to help me? And my career was a bit like that. I think the interesting thing I would share is, well, I can't say this anymore. I had never been promoted. So I was doing a talk like this, and someone said, "Tell me about the first time you'd been promoted." I never got promoted. And
Hmm.
when that came out, I actually felt a bit of a pang of shame. No, I've never been promoted. And I thought about that after, and it turned into pride. I really directed my own career. I guess I'm considered Gen X. So when we came out into the workforce, everyone said, "Oh, look out for them. They're going to change everything." I didn't want to hear about stay in the role for 5 years and then we'll think about promoting you or a career ladder or anything like that. I wanted to be acknowledged on merit and impact. And I made my way earlier career, and the one promotion I did receive was very much directed and advocated by me. But I was indeed promoted at the VP level for the first time in my career. So that's a bit about.
Yeah, that's really great. Now, I one of my favorite stories that you shared was when you were in the gold industry.
Mm,
I was wondering if you could maybe enlighten us and tell us a little bit about kind of what took you there, what led you to
yeah.
that, and how, some of the lessons you learned through that experience, because that was from what I remember, kind of an impactful moment for you.
Very. Yes, there's been two very impactful career decisions. One, I worked for Kinross Gold. It was the fifth largest gold company in the world at the time. I had been in financial services, and massive, massive Canadian bank. It wasn't where I could have my best impact. And this gold company opportunity came up. Well, at the time, I had my thoughts on mining, these North American companies exploiting resources potentially in all these other countries. It didn't feel good. And so I sat down with a mentor of mine and I told him, I'm really struggling with, my beliefs on the environment and how we should be treating the planet and taking this role at this company. And he said, yeah. He said, do you have a computer? Yeah. Do you have fillings in your teeth? Yeah. Do you have a ring on? Yeah. And so on. And he said, then you're part of this industry, whether you want to be or not. And if you're so ethically inclined, go review their social responsibility policies and satisfy yourself that they're good enough. Take the job. And if it isn't what you think it is, then you've made a decision and you've learned. But what if you learn something completely different? Anyway, I did all of that. First of all, I hadn't really traveled much. I think I was in my early 30s at the time. I'd gone to the States, within Canada and the US, but not really anywhere else.
Mhm.
And I didn't really think about that piece, but this company sent me to Mauritania,
Hmm.
one of the most arguably dangerous countries you could go to. At the time, we were dealing with Al Qaeda. We had anti-terrorist intelligence on the ground and bomb diffusers on staff. So that'll give you a sense of that. I was terrified. They sent me to Ghana, and you're not going to these countries into the developed part. You're going into the desert. You're going into the rainforest. You're traveling 30 hours. Russia into gold mining camps, and so what I realized, though, we'd be here all day if I told you more on those stories, but I loved to travel. And I got to Ghana and I was really upset because we were in the rainforest. These people were carrying their children and their food and they had their goats. And there was a dead goat on the way into the mining road and I lost it. This is why it's all bad. We're running over, that's all they have, and we're running over their goats. Were they compensated? And this was my real aha moment. Ghana, the mines there are run by Ghanaians. There are no expats there. They know how to exploit their own resources, which is fantastic. And I got there with my attitude of, we've done this to you. This is all bad. And I got put in my place really quickly. They said, thanks to Kinross, we have medical attention, we have electricity, we have clean water, we have emergency health and safety. We have snakes here. Our kids aren't dying when they come into contact with bugs. And I So, the lesson in it is walk into what's uncomfortable. You're entitled to your opinions and your views, but you probably don't know enough to hold them. At least that was the case for me. And I've traveled to over 65 countries since then. So it really changed my life.
Yeah. Wow. So you've seen a lot of the world. Has most of this been around your career and what you've selected as a career, or has it been more just personal choice to visit some of these areas?
Mining sent me to the weird and wonderful places, and then I chose more weird and wonderful places. Most of it's been personal since then.
Hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. So that was one of the most impactful moments of your life that helped you realize, okay, we're doing more than just putting rings on people's fingers. And
Hmm.
we're actually impacting communities by bringing resources and things to their community that wouldn't have been there otherwise. What,
Yeah.
what other meaningful, I know you said there was, I know there have been other impactful moments in your career. What would you say is another impactful moment that really helped define you and help you feel purpose and fulfillment?
Yeah. So, number one, walk into the terrifying, walk into what you think you know so well, prove yourself right or wrong. You really have nothing to lose. Number two is going to be choose happiness. So, my second move, here I am in oil and gas, second commodity downturn I've hit, which, it's just tough. You're taking businesses apart, which I actually really enjoy the work, understanding what we can do better and more efficiently, but it's not necessarily feel good outcomes for humans. Uh, I didn't love it. Okay, it was one of my least favorite working environments. I was there for almost 4 years. And I just was really questioning everything. You just have those days, those moments, or those stretches where, like, what am I doing? Do I really enjoy this? No. What am I going to do about it? Tiny little company called Shopify called from Ontario, Canada. If you've never heard of it, I'm not surprised. Shopify or Ottawa. And I decided to bite and just help them out. There was no way they were going to find the role they were looking for there. Anyway, before I know it, I'm being Ubered. Ubered was still new at the time, but being Ubered and flown to Ottawa to meet the executives and thinking, why am I doing this? How did I get myself into this? I was in heels and a suit because that's the environments I'd come from, sharp dress for your job or however you want to say it. And I felt like the teacher in the classroom. I was clicking with my heels. Everyone was looking at me like, who are you? They were in like boxing shorts and sandals. I was very stick out. And everyone had backpacks. It was just a very different environment. And I came
Yeah.
home and I said, I think I'm gonna have to actually consider this role. And I'm leaving a ton of money on the table at this established oil and gas company. Again, all the seniors, all the executives told me I was crazy. What are you doing? And I did it anyway because I chose happiness. And it's a really, really tough choice to make when all of your sort of, I'm going to say fears, doubts, they all get in there and try to convince you to stay in what's familiar, stay in what all these more experienced people are telling you is the better decision. Um, so number two, choose happiness, and it's the best probably career decision that I made. It wasn't life changing like Kinross to the extent that it affects your entire life, but it
Mhm.
was career molding.
Well, and I think that's really interesting. Because you had all of this experience, you probably were feeling more confident in that role at the time. But really, like, you decided to choose happiness. And I think that can be hard for a lot of us as women in the trades because we're trying to always, like, make the best choices for ourselves, our companies, our families. But how did you know, like, it was time to step into a different role? Like, how did you have the courage to actually choose that and walk away from some of those other things that did feel so comfortable?
Well, that's a good question. I'm going to tell you I was not comfortable at all. This company was, I'm going from Outlook, uh, PCs to Google Suites, G Suites, all this technology just to book meeting rooms. I felt like a dinosaur going there. The average age was 28 when I joined. I was in my 40s. I mean, So, how do you get the courage to do it? Yeah, it was funny. There's stories, especially from my first 30 days. So, first of all, don't ignore your gut feeling. You know more than you think you do, and your gut's your first signal that, maybe you need a change. There's a difference between tracking, like I had a bad day this week, and every other day is really challenging, and I just don't feel like I'm in the right place, or I can do more, or I can be more impactful. So there's your gut, and you can't, your brain will rationalize your gut feelings, and your heart, I'm not sure what role it plays, to be honest, but your gut knows. So I had that gut feeling in all of these cases. The courage. I would strongly advise you to have mentors and mentors from different walks of life. So you're going to want mentors from potentially different industries, mentors from different generations, you want different points of view from different lived experience. And so in the times where it felt really tough, do I take this role? Can I do this role? Yes, you can. And that's one area where women tend to be a lot harder on ourselves is haven't done it before, not sure I can do it. And the data tells us men are like, oh, I don't care. I'm going to just step in and I'll figure it out. And we need to be a bit more like that. And I have a lot of male mentors, and that's basically what they told me. You know, and if you think back to public school or high school or college or whatever challenge you faced, it was terrifying going to the next grade. Maybe it was going to high school, maybe it was going to college, maybe it was figuring out what to do in college. Maybe it was your first job and trying to figure out if you could do it, but you did, didn't you? And these next career rungs are no different. Some of them have been much harder than others and more stressful and under more pressure. Again, I've never been promoted, so I'd change industry, company, and be up a level. Um, but you can do it. And yeah, the courage, it's a matter. We all have that courage. Some of you are probably parents. I mean, that's the biggest. If it doesn't take courage to have a child, I don't know what does. So you have it, it's in there.
Yeah. And I know a lot of women on this call and in our Lady Titans group, we may not necessarily be looking to change roles or even change companies. I know, and I'm not advocating for that either on this call, but I do think there is a lot of power in growing yourself and looking for opportunities and not being afraid of those opportunities as you're even growing in the company that you're at, whether you're an owner, whether you're on the front lines and you're looking to get into leadership or management. Um, there will come some imposter syndrome with that. So that's some really great advice for imposter syndrome. I've had that myself. And so any other advice for imposter syndrome as you're trying to kind of up level yourself or maybe feel like you're worthy of a position or a title or an opportunity?
Yeah, so imposter syndrome. So there's two or three things I'm going to touch on. One, well, again, mentors. But I was fortunate at Shopify that anyone at the director level and above must have a coach, a
Mm.
full-on life career coach. And I benefited from that for the better part of 5 years. And I can tell you, it made a huge difference. So a coach, a therapist. Do not wait till you need a therapist. Highly recommend establishing a relationship with one, so that you can carry on those hard conversations and get coping tips from a therapist. Um, Here's some data I've accumulated along the way. So the first one I'll share is I'm going to put it in the context of something new that you're trying for the first time. How many of you, when you try something new for the first time, are really great at it? You love it, whether you made a new dish or you tried a new presentation, or like it's very rarely your best work. In fact, you're probably terrified to present it, eat it, have someone else try it because the first time we do anything, it's not gonna, unless you're some kind of prodigy, it's not gonna be your best time. And what can happen then, so you can relate that to a promotion, a new job, a new person you're overseeing, an expanded scope, someone else recognizes you and needs you to take on more. We don't know how to do it. And so we can very quickly go from this is new and growth to, oh my God, I'm not good enough. I don't know how to do this. They're two sides of the same coin. So, and my therapist helped me sort that out. So your brain can miswire and misfire and tell you you're not good enough when really You are. Someone else knows you can do it, and you're not going to figure it out right away. So give yourself some grace. The most effective thing that I've found with imposter syndrome, I was reading a book, and unfortunately, I can't remember which one I took this from. But imposter syndrome, by definition, is the belief that you're not good enough. And you hold that belief no matter who around you thinks otherwise. But there's a loophole there, a weird thing where you already think you're not good enough, but you're going to believe your own belief instead of everyone else's. And so I remind myself of that. It's the logic doesn't make sense. So try to just submit to the fact that someone else knows you can do it. They're usually more experienced, they've usually done it themselves, and they see something in you. You can do it, and you can probably do it really well. It just might take you a little bit to figure out how you want to do it and how to do it really well. So just the two things that I really anchor on are that growth mindset. We're never going to be great at a thing the first time we try it. So give yourself that grace and don't trust your own gut when it's saying I'm not good enough. Trust the other person's decision to put you in that role.
I love that. I love that. So it's going from this I can't do it, I'm not enough mindset of attacking our identity to I'm learning and I'm growing and I can figure this out type of a
Mm-hmm.
mindset.
Yeah.
That's really good advice. Yeah. Um, okay, so let's kind of shift this conversation to leadership a little bit, and especially being a woman in a lot of these predominantly male industries, like most of us are. Um, how do what has that experience been as you've moved into leadership positions in some of these? Because in my own experience, I remember when I became an owner of an HVAC company and I have all of these male technicians and I'm now telling them their schedule and I'm routing them to their calls and I'm telling them how many calls they have for the day and I have them saying I'm not doing that many calls and I feel a little bit of disrespect from the team because I'm a woman, because I'm new to this industry, because I don't know, you can't give us that many calls in a day. And I got a lot of pushback. Even when I started hiring more women on my team, they got the same pushback from some of those men. And it was very disheartening to me. And I had to really work on building a culture that was inclusive of women where I could define the roles where you're going to respect this female technician. You're not going to look down at her or make fun of her or degrade her. And so I think it's always very challenging being a woman in a predominantly male industry. And I know you've done this in the
Hmm.
oil and gas and in other places. And so I'd love to kind of hear how you navigated that and any leadership advice for those of us who may be in a similar situation right now.
So I'm gonna tell a story and then come back to this because the
Okay.
way you just described that's taking me way back in time. So a very young version of me, Molson, everyone probably it's beer, and I got a job outside of in between semesters in college in a factory, in a food manufacturing factory, beer. And I thought I was getting an office job. That's what I was going to school for, and it wasn't. I got there, they gave me a pair of glasses, put me through WMIS training. My hair was down to my waist, my nails were done, I had makeup on. The average age of this workforce was 65 men, and 250 of their counterparts had just been laid off, and they just brought in 250 summer students to replace them. So you can imagine the mood. And I literally remember they took one look at me, and one of the guys threw his gloves on the ground and walked away. And I thought, anyway, my first day was rough. I went home and cried. I'm not really a crier and cried and cried. And my dad said, you don't want to get up and go figure it out? Then you're not going to have enough money to go to school. And I thought, yeah, I'm going back in the next day and I'm going to show these guys that I can learn these machines. I was terrified. Okay. Like I really was scared that, clearly I'm not cut out for this kind of work. Anyways, 2 months went by. I learned the machines. I showed up consistently. I worked hard. I took the overtime. Management union relations were terrible. Some of the guys wanted to take time off. Management just said no. I got the summer students to cover for them. By the end of that summer, they had requested me to be rotated into their line as a full-time resource because they could trust me, rely on me, and they realized I could learn it. And what they shared with me afterwards was their reactions at the beginning yeah, they took one look at me and judged the book by the cover, but they had granddaughters and daughters that looked like me and they didn't want me in that environment. And so I'm going to round it back to all of my all of my career points have actually relied on men. Men were the ones that were above me, beside me, and to the extent you rely on others to move you forward, it was men.
Mhm.
And I've just had more experience with them pushing me forward, challenging me, wanting me there. I have other experience too, but we're not, that's not the question we're asking. My advice is this. The more, and this isn't really genderized, but the more that you can get to know the people who work for you, appreciate them as human beings, empathize with whatever's going on in their home life, that's what's going to earn the respect. There's this analogy on Facebook. It's untrue, but if anyone's heard it, it's the jar of ants with black ones and red ones in it, and they all sort of go about their business until someone shakes that jar, and then they go at each other. Again, it's not true, but I love the analogy because everyone gets on fine until there's rockiness or tension or a reason to not like you today. And for some people, that can, oh, it's a woman telling me what to do. So my advice is this: try not to take it as it's because you're a woman. It's most of the time it's got nothing to do with it. It's just rocky intention, and that's the first label someone's going to put on it. Don't accept that. Second of all, get to know these people as human beings. And when you're there for them the first couple times when they need you, they don't show up to shift on time. They can't show up today because some really horrible thing happened in their life, and you let it be okay and cover them. They're going to have a really hard time going at you or the others when they feel that they're actually cared about. And leadership to me is more about genuinely caring about the people who show up for you every day than anything else you can do. If you care and they know it, you can misstep, you can say the wrong thing, you can have your head butts, but they know you care. And so the last thing I'm going to say on this, I've lost my quote here, but Marcus Aurelius, arguably one of the most histories written by victors, but one of the most successful emperors of Rome. If you've seen Gladiator, that was Marcus Aurelius depicted in that movie. And his quote is something like this: don't feel hurt, and you won't be hurt. That's not exactly what it is, but I didn't like that the first time I heard it. Because you do have feelings and you do feel hurt, but it's so true. The more you allow that to penetrate and be the thing that hurts you, the longer it takes to get over it, and it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you are women leaders and you do have a role to play and you do have an impact and you will run teams and you will influence men and you will influence executives and you will influence a whole bunch of people. And most of them you will like and some of them you won't. But if you put that female label on yourself, it just makes it that much more painful to deal with it all. So try to find a way to slough that off.
Ooh, I love that. That is such good advice. It reminds me of something that I recently heard from a coach that I was working with who said, if you are feeling offended about something, that's you feeling offended. You can choose to let people offend you, or you can choose to let people be them and not let it ruffle your feathers.
Yeah, here, I'll
And
post the quote in the chat, okay? So you have it.
yeah,
But this really impacted me, and on my hardest days where you just wanna, you're just gonna have those days that are hard, and you can. But
yeah,
come back to yourself. You
yeah,
deserve to be there. And who cares if one person thinks you're a woman and you're not good enough? Everyone else knows you are and that you are.
yeah. Well, and would you say that because, I mean, and maybe this is me labeling us as women, I think we bring a lot of strengths to our jobs as women. We have a lot of, it's kind of like my husband used to call me like the secret hidden weapon of our business. Because I could bring a lot of things that other companies didn't have. I could build relationships really, really easy. That was one of my strengths. And that's not a strength for all women, but would you say that there are certain strengths that we have as women without categorizing us or putting us in a box or labeling us as female that you think help us in roles, especially leadership roles?
So I love what Brianna just posted in the chat. I'm going to say, based on my lived experience, we're all so unique. I cannot genderize what I have been through.
Right.
But what I can say is what we've read, what you've all read, what I've read. And I do, when I think about my personal life, I know it to be true. And it's what Brianna just put. Women are known to be more organized, intentionally organized, and less likely to just wing it and more likely to be organized. And I can tell you, I'm a very organized person. And some people ask what's the key to success. And I honestly think that's one of them. It doesn't get you sort of at the leadership level to where you need to go. You will find yourself fairly disorganized, but organization is huge. And data and studies show women are generally better at that than men. And if I can throw a little cheeky shot in there, even the executive men look at the genders of their assistants and the people who own their schedules in their offices. So I do think there's something to that. Empathizing, sympathizing, um, especially women who are parents. The studies show that becoming a parent, that is a huge leadership role. You have now become the leader of a young person who you're going to nurture and hopefully turn into a really great member of society. It's a huge role. And what I've been told by people in my networks and what I've read is women generally naturally are more empathetic, but especially parents. You just have a way of empathizing with human beings on a level that maybe wasn't even possible for you before you had kids. So those are the two things I would say huge strengths. Again, if you don't care, and it's okay if you don't, but if you don't care about the people who work for you, you probably shouldn't be leading them. They'll know it, and this is where you're going to have problems. And you should be looking for that in your leaders and managers as well. You don't want someone running your crews or your technicians that do not care about them. So the ability to empathize with humans is one way to show care. Being organized, coming down to organization. If you know an important, I don't know how big your businesses are or your teams are, but I'll tell you, knowing someone's birthday, knowing what's important in their life, knowing their kids' names. I read this or saw this somewhere as well. If you're a leader or a manager or an owner of a company, everyone who works for you talks about you at the dinner table. Their partners know your name, their kids know your name. What do you want that story to be? I'll tell you, for me, I want to be impacting people's lives for the better. Now, being a leader or a manager or an owner of a company, we all know situations come up that are unpleasant and we have to deal with them. But as long as you care, at the root of it, you'll get through those situations and the rest of the teams and even the person on the other side of the unpleasant situation over time, if it takes time, will respect the decisions made if you treat them well.
I love that. I love that. And I would love to personally know a little bit more about how you, uh, I think that's the best advice, just to care for your people. I think as women, especially in predominantly male industries, how can you come across and really establish your authority without being seen as someone who's too pushy or someone who, you can advocate for yourself without feeling like you have to rely on a man to help advocate for you?
This is the tough part, and I'll give you an experience that just happened to me recently. It kind of intersects everything we've talked about, but you need to do it. You need to advocate for yourself, for your team, and affect change. And the rest will start to see you as that leadership authority role when they know that you hold the capability to change the outcomes for the better. And so, example I'll give, I am now chairing a healthcare board here in Ontario. Hugely daunting. Well, I can't say I don't have healthcare experience. I do on this board for about 9 years. But by rights, this chair role was not mine. The reality is no one else could step into it. And you asked, how do you have the courage to do it? Well, my gut said, this is your last opportunity to chair this board. I actually said no right away. Don't know why. I caught myself in that. My husband's like, you've been wanting to chair this board the whole time. Anyways, I'm on it since June. And there's a big tension between my organization and another organization that we had to lead. And they said, the board chair needs to lead this discussion. The debate is between two board chairs. So the CEO can't get in and navigate or shouldn't be the one navigating this discussion. Now, We talked about being new to a role. Do you think I'm comfortable in it? No. Do you think that I know how to do it on most days? I'm still figuring it out. I tell myself the same thing I told you. Yes, you can. Somebody thought, multiple people thought you were the best one for the role, and now you've got it figured out. So here I go into this tense discussion, and it doesn't matter how high up in leadership you get, you don't want to have them, right? We all avoid the hard conversations, and this was unavoidable. And so what happened is the person on the other side of the argument is a lawyer. I am not. That comes with a certain degree of imposter syndrome, if you want to call it that. I'm
Mhm.
arguing with a lawyer, or the debate is with a lawyer on the governance structure of an organization. Well, back to organization. I had my notes organized. I had my points organized. I am not emotionally attached to the outcome of this discussion. I genuinely care about the people on the other side of the table, and I care about the longevity of the organization. And so while it was an incredibly difficult discussion, it was navigated, and the outcomes, like this thing was put to bed this time. There's been several discussions preceding it. And at the end, I had a tenured CEO of this healthcare organization, the old one and the new one, tell me it was brilliantly navigated, is what they said. That's all the email said. And I
Mm.
thought, okay, I did it. I wasn't sure how I showed up for that. It was incredibly tense. Um, but now, when that other organization wants to bring ideas and forceful comments about governance, I just don't think they will. And part of me thinks that that conversation established me as the chair of that hospital. And it's been since June. And that was my first opportunity to differentiate that role and me in it from everyone else. And so, how do you gain that respect? I personally don't care what your title is. I care how you act and how you show up. And again, it comes back to care and taking that title, earning that title over and over again. If there's something that needs to change or something that needs to be better, people look up to the ones that walk into the fire, not the ones that are going to turn around and throw someone else in it or bus throw. So that's my answer to that. And even on the hard days, again, where you get a bad situation and somebody is going to underestimate you. So another little hint, I have little mugs. So this one's just a nice ServiceTitan one today. But I have other mugs on my desk. And one of them says, underestimate me. I dare you to. And if you have little sayings like that, there you go. I see some people have those things on your desk somewhere near, because it's all nice to hear me give you advice. And on the strong days, you'll take it. And on the weaker days, it's hard to take it. Have those little reminders on your desk, because the really difficult situations are going to happen no matter what I sit here and tell you, and no matter how hard you work. But you've got it. You've got to get back up and face it again the next day. And those little sayings can be the one thing you can look at. And I saw some of you put it up and you had a smile on your face. That's the impact it can have when you're feeling bad about something.
Mm. I love that. I think everyone's going to put underestimate me, even if it's on a sticky note. Everyone needs to stick that up right now.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. It just kind of puts the power back into you. Like,
Yes,
I've got control over this. I can decide how I want to show up. I can decide if I want to show up scared and nervous, or I can show up confident and prepared and organized and claim this. Even if it is uncomfortable, we show up as our best selves.
that's right.
Such great advice. So good. Okay. What questions do you guys have for Krista in regards to leadership? Because I have a few other questions I want to ask her about a bit of a different topic, but what questions do you have for her? Or do you have a situation that you're like, she might have some advice for me as a mentor on this call? And you can feel free to put it in the chat or raise your hand or just come off mute.
One, is there a book that you read when you were starting within leadership that you still reflect on now?
Great question.
I struggle with reading, and audiobooks came out a little bit Too late, but I read them now. I think where I've drawn inspiration mostly is from those really compelling stories that are either in the form of a show or a movie. I referenced Gladiator earlier. Look at that. For anyone who's seen it, but I think it's Russell Crowe. Look at that character. Who wasn't voting for him to lead the armies and the legions and everything else by the end of that movie? And what traits got him there? He cared for the people. He fought for the people. He ended up dying for the people. Spoiler alert, it's an old movie, but hopefully I'm not ruining that one for anybody. Um, Even Marcus Aurelius, the emperors. Netflix has a phenomenal series on, it's called The Rise and Fall of Great Empires. So they go through China, the Mayans, the Incas, the Persian empires, all of the greatest empires. And it's all about leadership and strategy, and obviously the thoughts on how they came to be and how they came to fall, because they all did. In terms of books on leadership, I think for me, it's lived experience and watching these compelling stories of what great leaders do. And for me, the first half of my career, which might not surprise you, I didn't have great leaders for what I needed in leaders. And so when I became one, I was made up of a bunch of things I did not want to do to anyone else or did not want to put anyone else through. And it was only when I got to Shopify where I realized I should start adding what I do want to be and the experience I do want people to have, to all those things that, I'm not going to do to I'm going to try not to do to somebody else. We all end up in situations that are unpleasant, but yeah, when you think about your leadership style, one of the exercises I did with my team one time was ask them, what are the characteristics of a great leader for you? Because you might think everyone thinks the same and they don't. So that was another aha moment for me. What someone thinks is a great leader, someone else may not, or it's not an alignment there. And so figure out what great leadership means to you and how you want to treat people and how you want to show up, and whether it's books, movies, stories of the greatest leaders of all time, according to whoever's narrating. Um, that's what I took inspiration from.
Love that. Thanks for that question, Christina. That was a great question. Good. Any other questions for Krista? Well, I'll let you guys think for just a moment. Oh, Renee's got a question here. I'll read it. How do you navigate the challenge that sometimes as a female, we can say the same things as our male counterparts, but don't get the same respect, or the message gets taken wrong? We come off as bossy or aggressive. That's the stereotype, versus the male assertive and a strong leader. Stereotype as if you're speaking up for yourself. That's such a good question, Renee.
Yeah, isn't that awesome when that happens? So, a few things I'm going to say on that. One, when it happens, we can immediately put whatever the layers on it. It's because I'm a woman, it's because I'm older, it's because I'm younger, it's because I look this way, whatever it is. And I'm gonna, as hard as it is, say, put that one aside, because I've seen it happen among men and among women as well. Here's another thing, a few more things I'm going to share. Data, this is sort of dated data now, but data suggests that men are much better at socializing their ideas in advance of a discussion. So if they're going to put forward an idea, a proposal, a business case, a recommendation, they will have already, just theoretically, let's say you're on an executive team and there's 5 of you and there's the CEO. Your male counterpart has already gone around to each of their peers and to the CEO and raised this thing a number of times. And so by the time it comes to the table, they're more likely to be seen as the voice on the issue, and they're more likely to know where their misalignments are and be able to handle it. Women are more likely to hold it, hold the whole thing, do it all themselves, and present for the first time in a meeting like that, and therefore be like, oh, Paul already had that idea, but thanks, Tina. Um, so swap that around. If you have a new idea, a great idea, start socializing it before you get in those discussions. Don't be in a team discussion the first time you bring it up, because someone else may already be all over it, men or female, but men are known to do this much better. The other thing, so on the aggressive thing or bossy thing, I my default, and maybe this resonates with some of you, is to say the thing. Just say the thing, put it on the table, which can be seen as assertive, too direct, whatever all the things are. I've really tried to ask good questions instead. So I might think I know the answer and want to put it on the table. But instead of trying to be seen as the voice or the opinion, ask the other person. So if there's two people in a room and you're both on the same wavelength and you both have a great idea, what a great situation to be in. Because now you have an ally and someone who's going to help you push it forward. Be part of the conversation and ask great questions of that person to show that you have knowledge and you have care and you've given it thought too, and bring yourself back to the table. So, three things. Try to drop whatever label you're putting on why it happened because you'll never know. And chances are it's one of the other two things I measured, and you just put yourself through more pain thinking about it. Two, socialize your ideas long in advance. Start figuring out who your allies are and where your counterparts are, and develop the great arguments, discussions, and data you need to refute those concerns. And three, if someone else raises it and they're getting the airtime, be part of that discussion. Don't let them just continue to run the monologue on the discussion. Find a way to get in on it and be part of it.
Oh, so good. Are you guys all excited to go have some discussions now?
I hope so.
I love that. Great. If you guys have other questions, please put them in the chat. And while you're doing that, Krista, this has been such a wonderful conversation and really given me a lot to think about. In the different roles that I play and different parts that I play in my life and in my career, in my home, in my community. So thank you for sharing those. What, after this conversation, what's really you've given us a ton of advice, but what do you really want the Lady Titans to take away from this conversation today, and just knowing, some of the things that they're up against in their businesses and their companies, and just is there any advice that you haven't shared yet that you think would be helpful for this group?
Maybe I'll just give a few more that probably tie in. You'd be surprised how many men I've heard of who feel the exact same way you do, or the themes that have come up. It's not exclusive. We don't own the rights to having a terrible interaction or feeling unseen. So know that you do have allies there, and you should tap into that. Really and truly, if you put your mind to it and find a way, it's going to happen. And you can look at some of the great is, subjective, but, if you look at some of these people who stand up as leaders, whether you like them or not, they dropped out of school. They did the unconventional thing. They did what everyone told them not to do, and they were successful anyway. Nothing great ever happened from just doing it the same way all the time because you're too scared to step out. Um, there's nothing special about me or my decisions. I didn't bud the line. I started from way behind the line. I didn't have connections. I grew up in a trailer. Like, I grew up with limited means, and I'm proud of where I've gotten to, but I got there through sheer hard work. And knowing I could, well, not all the time knowing I could, but believing I could. Remember the scary stuff that happened in the past. We all have it, and you overcame it. And so, on the days where it feels like another mountain, remember that you've come over so many of them and you will continue to overcome it. Everything's temporary, even the really crappy stuff. It's all temporary, and you can decide to move through it. And here's the one that I heard on the radio the other day, and I've written it down for myself. They say, self-care, meditate, do something nice for yourself, all the normal things we'd all say, yeah, that's great. They're actually saying the best thing you can do for yourself to lift yourself up is visualize that best version of yourself and do it often. I don't know if you've all seen Harry Potter, and he finds that mirror and he finds his family in the mirror and he's seeing something he really likes. Find that mirror for yourself. What do you look like? What are you doing? What does success look like for you right now? And it can change over time. But if you visualize that, it really lifts you up, and you can make it happen. It actually changes the synapses in your brain to really teach you that you can make it happen. So to go from I don't know if I've got this to I've got this, the more often you do that, the more likely you are to take the opposite mindset.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I really, really great. Lots of awesome takeaways. So thank you for those extra little gold nuggets there and all the advice to help us as we're just leveling up as individuals in our careers and our lives. Lots of great advice there. So thank you for being such an impactful influence for us today and helping us be able to take this into our lives. Really,
Yeah.
really appreciate you, Krista.
Thanks for inviting me in, and I hope it helped at least some of you with some of the things. It's a journey.
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely a journey, and just loved how you frame how we can control so much with our own mindset. We can control the outcome. And so, Angie, thank you for bringing Krista to us and guiding us through this fireside chat. Krista, thank you for sharing all of your stories and experiences. I know I feel motivated and empowered and just a different frame of mindset for a lot of things. Like Angie said, like, let's go have those hard conversations. Let's go put our mind to some of these different things and stuff. So, thank you so much for your time today, Angie and Krista. Really appreciate it. So, ladies, thank you for joining us for another fantastic Spotlight series. Join us for the Lady Titans Lounge on February 11th. That is where it is completely unscripted, unrecorded, but you can have more fireside chats like this with any problems that you're having. Sometimes you just need to celebrate a win with someone else. You know, this is what this group is for. So, join us for the Lady Titans Lounge on February 11th. And then don't forget about our Zyra Talk webinar on January 27th. So I'll drop that right here one more time, drop that graphic and the sign up link. You guys will not want to miss it. It is completely free. Again, just another resource of how Lady Titans can pour into you in your own personal and professional development. We are here for you guys. So thank you for joining us today. Happy Tuesday. Happy 2026. It's going to be a great year if we have the right mindset and can put the action and the work towards it. So thank you all for joining us today and hope to see you on our next webinar and then next at the Lady Titans Lounge. Thank you guys.